Hello! Today we're going to make a tree topper. First thing you need to do is head over to my website, download the template, print it out and cut out the pieces. We're going to start with the body. You are going to need two different colours of felts, one for the inside and one for the outside, and I'm just cutting those out together here. I've chosen felt because it comes in lots of lovely colours and it's really easy to work with. We're also going to need some thin card. I'm just using some packaging material here, but you could use cereal boxes, something thin and pliable. This needs to be slightly smaller than the felt, so I'm going to cut out that shape and then trim it down slightly. I'm also going to shape it and curl it up slightly, you'll see in a moment, there we go, so that it's easier to bend when I actually put my piece together. Now we're starting with the front of the body. I've added my design here, which has got various different coloured pattern pieces that I am cutting out from the original template. You could do your own design, you could do embroidery, you can get some pattern felt even, or pattern fabric that you could use. I'm just choosing the colours here. Now when I come to use my felt and draw around my pattern pieces on it, I like to use an erasable pen, there it is, because if you use an iron on it on a low heat, it will disappear afterwards. That is a top tip. We're just going to cut out these pieces, lay them onto the backing fabric, and then in a moment you'll see that I stitch them on with various different techniques. So I've chosen some nice pink and red there for the stripes that go up the body. I was thinking originally orange, but I changed my mind to this purple colour that I am going to put around the edge. You can also dig out various bits of trim and things that you might have hanging around, buttons, sequins, pom-poms. I found this nice pom-pom trim in my stash, so I've just added that. You can completely personalise it to be your own design. And then we're just going to stitch this on. So I have chosen to use some slightly thicker embroidery thread to add a decorative detail. I'm just using some back stitch here to add a line around this bib part, which actually forms her top when you actually construct it together. I'm just doing yellow, and then I do another one with orange on the inside. And then I'm going to pick a thinner thread and a thinner needle and matching colours just to stitch in the other parts. But you can completely make this your own, adapt it, add different elements to it. You could add flowers. One of the other ones I made, I added small felt flowers and sewed buttons in the middle of them. You could make it look like a Christmas tree and add pom-poms or buttons as the baubles. The options are endless. So you can see I'm finishing off here, sewing the last bit of that trim on, and then the front of the body is finished. I'm happy with that. So I am just tying a knot in the back. It doesn't matter what the back looks like because that's all going to be covered up. So now I'm going back to my card. I am going to use just a normal glue stick, and I am going to glue the front onto that. Remember which way you curved it and make sure that that is on the outside. And then I am going to do the same but with the other piece of felt we cut out at the beginning. So more glue stick, and it doesn't need to be loads, just a thin layer to hold the felt in place. And this gives the structure of the cone, makes it nice and sturdy. So now I've stuck both layers. I've made a sandwich with my card in the middle, and I am going to stitch around the edge. I just use a whip stitch. I've chosen thin red thread. This takes quite a while, so sit and relax and stitch it all the way around the edge. So once we've stitched this all the way around the edge, we're actually going to shape the body. So how we curved the card at the beginning, we're going to curve it, and we're going to make the two sides meet at the back. You can see some of my trim doesn't match exactly, but it doesn't matter, that will be at the back. And then I am going to stitch along this seam. I'm stitching through both sides of the fabric. This is a bit tricky and can take a little while, but take your time with this because this is going to form the main structure of your tree topper. So I'm carefully stitching all the way along there until I get to the top, and then you'll see when I get to the top, it's just going to speed up a little bit now. When I get to the top, I actually squash it flat a little bit. It's quite quick on the video, but I thought I'd explain that. So I squash the top flat a little bit. It just makes it easier to glue everything when you come to glue it together at the end. So there we go, the body is finished. Now we're going to move on to the head. I am using my erasable pen again, and I've just cut out the front and the back, and on the front one I have drawn the details of the face on. I'm cutting out some lips in felt. You could stitch that as well, and just using some thin red thread to stitch that on. And then I'm going to move to some black embroidery thread in a moment and just stitch the details of the face on. You could make this your own. I quite like the idea of doing a sugar skull or making the features slightly different. You could make a whole army of angels and make them all slightly different. Just doing the famous monobrow here. There we go. There's the face. Now we're going to put them face to face because we're going to turn this inside out in a minute. And we're just sewing along the bottom half of the face because the top half is going to be covered by the hair. I did do this on the sewing machine on one of the other ones I've made, but I thought I'd show you hand stitching. You're then going to turn it inside out, and we're going to move on to the hair. You will need 2 pieces of this. I've chosen black. Again, could be any colour you like. A piece for the front and the back. Now, a bit of stuffing in the head. You are going to cover up that top opening with the hair, so you might want to stuff a bit more as you go along. I've pinned it in place because it's a bit fiddly, this bit. I'm using black embroidery thread just to stitch the front hair line to the front, to the face, and then I'm going to do the same on the back, along the back of the head, and then eventually I will seal the whole thing up by sewing around the top of the hair. And I'm just using the embroidery thread and doing a running stitch here. It doesn't actually show up on the black felt. And then I'm going to do a whip stitch round the edge. Again, like I said, you could put a bit more stuffing in if you thought it needed it at this stage. You could just do this part separately and it would make a nice brooch. Now I'm doing the flower crown. I've got some flower patterns in the printable, but you could make this your own. You could do sequins, pom-poms, buttons. I'm just carefully cutting out a few flowers and then I'm attaching them with just a French knot. I'm using brightly coloured embroidery thread. This comes in lots of colours, and I'm doing a single French knot in the middle of that and then stitching underneath it a bit like you would a button to make sure they don't fall off. And then she's got a very beautiful flower crown. I've done 3 different sizes of flowers and I've used 2 different colours of embroidery thread just to give it a bit of variety and interest. But like I said, you could just do the head separately and turn it into a key ring or a brooch or something like that. It's quite a fun little thing on its own. And we've almost done with the head. So now, last couple of stitches, pull the thread through the back and trim it off. There we go, head's finished. So now we're going to move on to the halo. I'm using the same technique that I did for the body. I'm going to take the front and back pieces in felt and then a thin piece of card in the middle that is slightly smaller than the felt. I'm going to make the main part of the halo orange. So I'm cutting out 2 circles in orange. And then I am going to add a pattern to it. This is entirely optional. Yeah, you could just leave it plain. You don't even have to have a halo if you don't want to, but I quite like this design, this sort of sunburst design. But you could just do some embroidery patterns. You could choose different coloured felts. It's entirely up to you. All of this is adaptable and you can personalise it. So I'm carefully just cutting that out and I am going to stitch it onto one of the discs on the halo and then literally put it together exactly the same way that I did the body. So just stitching around the edge of that with some yellow thread, some thinner thread, and then we will glue it and do a whip stitch all the way around the outside. Obviously I've called these tree toppers, but you could use them for lots of different things. They make really nice table decorations. You could just have them dotted around your house, little angels. I am tempted to keep mine up all year round because I love it so much. So we're just finishing off the halo now. We've stitched around the edge in whip stitch, and there you can see it fits nicely behind the head. Now we're going to move on to the arms. I have chosen this sort of flesh toned felt, and you need to cut out 4 of them, 2 for each arm. I've tried this on the sewing machine and turning them inside out, but it is so fiddly and the felt stretches really easily, so I've opted to do it the way that I'm going to show you in the video. So I've cut out 4. I'm just going to do 1 arm for you first, and then you just duplicate that process. So we're going to put 2 together, and we are going to whip stitch around it, but we're only going to do the bottom part of the arm. I've done a couple of marks there where you should start and finish, and you're going to leave the top open. That's where you're going to stuff the arm. That's all going to be covered up by the sleeve, which we'll make in a minute. So I kept the whip stitches really small and as close to the edge as possible. Now we're going to move on to the sleeve. I've actually matched the colour of the sleeve to the bib at the front of the body, so it looks a bit like a top. I am going to turn this one inside out, and I wish I'd picked a thread that was matched that blue colour because it shows a little bit. So I've turned that inside out, and now I'm just doing a bit of decorative embroidery around the edge of the sleeve to make it look a bit more like the rest of the top that she's going to be wearing. Now I'm going to stuff my arm. I poked it in with a pencil, little bits at a time is the key here, until it's quite well stuffed. You don't want it to be rock hard, you want it to be still a little bit light and flexible. And then once I've done that, I'm going to stitch up the top. This is all covered by the sleeve. We eventually put a little blob of glue inside the sleeve and stick it on there. You could stitch it, but I've done it in this video with a blob of glue, and I'm just sealing that up so the stuffing doesn't come out. And there you can see the arm. Right, now we are onto the wings, the final piece that you're going to cut out. I just cut it out of a piece of felt. You could do them as 2 separate ones if you wanted, but I've just done them all in one. If the felt for the wings is a bit floppy and thin, you could do the card trick and do 2 layers. And then we're just going to hot glue the whole thing together. You could stitch it together, it would take a little bit longer. Like I said, a blob of glue in the sleeve, poke the arms in, and then we'll glue the arms in position. But I found gluing it with hot glue the best way to do it. And I'm actually going to put her hands together because she looks quite nice like that. And finally, gluing on the halo. Just hold everything for a minute or 2 until it sets in place, and there she is, all finished. So enjoy. I can't wait to see all the different tree toppers that you make, and visit back soon. Thanks for watching.